From the Watergate building in Washington, this is Hotline TV. Now here are Hotline editors Amy Walter and John Mercurio.
Welcome to Hotline TV. I'm John Mercurio.
And I'm Amy Walter. The DNC is warning Florida, which moved its primary up to January 29th, to move it back at least a week or else.
Or else.
All right, John, can they really bar 210 delegates from the convention in Denver?
Abso-freaking-lutely. This is something that could actually take place, and I
around.
think, a lot of people think, oh, this is, this is a storm that could blow over. But can you imagine the media obsession with following this story during the Democratic convention this summer? Not a lot of stories come out of conventions anymore. You really have to there has to be either a scandal that sort of breaks out, like the Dick Morris scandal in Chicago in 1996, which sort of distracts from the message of the convention, or something like this. And can you imagine the media 8 years after Florida decided the election, focusing on the fact that their delegates are being barred from the convention? It, I think, would be a major distraction for the Democratic Party, for the Democratic nominee.
Which
and
does,
I think they need, the party needs to, I think, sort of assess its real power, its real influence over these nominations, over these primaries at this point, or this could really be the end of the nominating conventions as they've existed for the past 50 years.
Yeah, no, I mean, we've already been talking about the fact that conventions have become essentially useless in the past few years, and they're for parties, they're for donors, they're for everybody but the general public. There's no interest, there's no intrigue in it, and more TV news is trying to pull away from its coverage of it and spend less time on it.
Right.
So what we had been talking about earlier in the year was maybe the prospect that this election, 2 wide open primaries, could produce the first brokered convention in our political lifetimes. Maybe some of you older but very good fans of the show might have remembered the last ones. But the point is this, but we love you. Thank you for participating in the process for many years. The point is this, that we thought maybe, just maybe, this could be an interesting convention where you actually do have to pay attention all the way up.
Sure.
But this is not the way they wanted it,
This
right?
is
It's one thing to say, well, we're going to have the first ballot and the second ballot, and there's going to be so much intrigue. To say that they're barred is not. And finally, I just think that Democrats, ultimately, they're going to sit down and say, here is our best chance to win the White House in the last 8 years. Are you kidding me that we're going to distract from this because of this date?
Because of this
Stop
date.
it.
The other thing is you also have to look at the general election. Florida remains a very, very competitive state. If Democrats are, Barack Obama has already acknowledged that, look, if the delegates aren't allowed to the convention, I'm going to spend less time in Florida during the primary process. Republicans, Mitt Romney, Rudy Giuliani, they're down there, they're organizing their campaigns in Florida, not just for the primaries, but for the general election. If Democrats aren't focusing on Florida for the next 6 months, and they then have to drop in after the primary, they're at a real disadvantage for winning Florida in November.
Well, although I'm going to just have a slight disagreement here, which is I don't think there is a normal Florida voter here right now who really cares at all about when the primary is or what delegates are doing or any of that. And I do think that candidates are going to go down.
I think it's about organization.
Yeah,
I think it's
about
having your base ready or your organization ready to run.
I don't know if you need to do that right now. That's true. If you're Hillary Clinton, you're excited about this. You got more money, or Barack Obama, even although he has to decide sort of how he wants to spend that. But the 2 candidates with the most money, Florida might not be a bad investment. Everybody else, not as much. I don't know. I just think that in the end, this isn't as much of an issue for voters going into 2008 as it is, like you said in the beginning, the focus on Democrats can't, the sort of Keystone Cop nature of this, that here they have a chance to win in 2008, and they are responsible for their own problems.
Karen Thurman wishing she was still in Congress.
And she did.
I am certain.
I'm certain about that.
Hurricane Dean hits Florida. Looks like we're out of time for today. Thanks for joining us on Hotline TV.